This will probably be the most negative I've talked about a team so far up to this point in these offseason videos. But the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are a team this year that looks like not only are they going to regress, they already were a team last year where offensively the best thing they did was not turn the ball over. In fact, that's the only thing that they ranked in the top half of the league in last year. And defensively, even though they had a very good scoring defense and a very good rushing defense, they were a bottom 4 team in the league when it comes to defending the pass. They were 12th in causing turnovers, and they were 23rd in overall yards allowed last year. Now, this is an offense that features a boatload of options for Baker Mayfield going forward with this offense. You draft Bucky Irving and you draft Jalen McMillan in the NFL draft this year. You already have Mike Evans and Chris Godwin at the receiver position, and you have Rachaad White and Chase Edmonds in the backfield for your team. You are, in terms of your skill position group, you are one of the best teams in the NFC, and possibly, you're fighting with Atlanta to have the best skill group in the NFC South. If Atlanta can put it all together, I think Tampa Bay is cooked if in that regard. But part of that is possibly also because of the fact that Baker Mayfield just isn't the kind of quarterback that you really want in today's NFL. Now, Baker Mayfield had a cool season last year, but I'm not going to sit here and tell you that he was a top 5 quarterback, even top 10 quarterback last year. I think when you put Baker Mayfield and you surround him with guys like Rachaad White and Chase Edmonds out of the backfield, like Mike Evans and Chris Godwin on the outside, also with K. Dotton at tight end, you're bound to throw for a lot of yards and you're bound to throw for a lot of touchdowns. I think a lot of quarterbacks could have been put in Baker Mayfield's position last year and done a lot better. Let's not forget, this team still was 9-8 last year. They had a spot last year where they were 4-7, and they took full advantage of the fact that they played 4 games in a row against Carolina, Atlanta, Green Bay, and Jacksonville, where they took advantage of those 4 games and pulled out a 4-game win streak to put themselves in the NFC South conversation. I can already tell what all I'm saying is going to piss Tampa Bay Buccaneers fans off, because they're going to look at this and they're going to say, well, Baker Mayfield took us to the playoffs last year. I don't really care what our record was. I don't really care if quarterbacks could have done a better job than he did last year. We won a playoff game against the Philadelphia Eagles last year, and we were competitive against the Detroit Lions last year in the divisional round. And I say that's great. That's awesome. If you want to make the divisional round and be a competitive team in the playoffs, that's great. Baker Mayfield's going to get you that every single year. What Baker Mayfield's also going to get you is you have to pay him a combined $80 million is what you're going to be paying Baker Mayfield after this year for 2 years. I don't know if he is worth that. I don't know if he's not worth that. To be honest with you, like I said, Baker Mayfield might be the perfect quarterback to get your team to the playoffs. Winning in the playoffs might be a different conversation. And look, I think everything I'm saying, I think there should be some truth in this. I do think Baker Mayfield can be a good quarterback any given year in terms of a statistical output. But when you compare what Baker Mayfield does to the rest of the top quarterbacks in the league, the quarterbacks that made the playoffs last year and the quarterbacks that took their team over the hump, Baker Mayfield just doesn't stand up from a physicality standpoint, from a standpoint of this quarterback, you would want the ball in their hands almost more than any other quarterback in the NFL. I don't know if you can say that about Baker Mayfield. The defense also this year, I think, took a step back from being a top 5 defense in the NFL. And I think part of it is the fact that they have an offense that they can't really rely on to put them in the lead every single game. Especially when you look at what this team lost just with Shaquille Barrett and Devin White, you are losing major pieces to this defense. And you replace Shaq Barrett with Randy Gregory, who I believe has already been put on the whatever list it is that Randy Gregory is on. I know he's on A list, And if you're an NFL player, you don't want to be on any list. You hope that the offensive lineman Graham Barton that the Tampa Bay Buccaneers took in the first round from Duke is going to be offsetting the terrible Cody Mock last year. I didn't realize how bad he was until you actually see him play. But you always heard from Tampa Bay Buccaneers fans or people who watch the NFL in general that Cody Mock was just one of the worst offensive linemen in the NFL last year. And you hope that Graham Barton can replace him. There's not really a lot to talk about with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in the offseason. They really didn't do a lot. They had their draft picks. They had a few offensive or offseason additions. They had a few offseason losses. And I think their losses were definitely more impactful than what their additions were, at least in terms of free agency. No trades in or out for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in the offseason. So let's get to the schedule. So you have these primetime games against the Chiefs, against the Ravens, against the Falcons, and against the Cowboys. I could easily see this team going 0-4 in those games. And look, I don't want to be this guy that's going to beat up on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, but they just don't have something. I don't know what it is. They just don't have it. And you won the division last year. That's really good. That's really good that you won the division last year, especially because that was an up for grabs division. And you were kind of in a purgatory year where you don't really know what you want to do. And you turn that into winning the NFC South and winning a playoff game at home. That's everything you want to do in terms of keeping your fan base energetic about the franchise. And then you go in the offseason and you do this. I think it's easy to say that they are not going to be as good as they were last year. And that's an obvious statement. But I think this team, like floor-wise, is 4 or 5 wins, and ceiling is 7 or 8 wins. They got pretty lucky to be a 9-8 team last year, and they still got pretty lucky, even with being 9-8, to still win the division. Because if Atlanta keeps their head screwed on straight last year, they easily win this division last year. I'm really sorry, Buccaneers fans, but this is just not a team that I think is going to be liked by you this season. I could be totally wrong. This could be an 11-win team this year. I don't see it, but it could happen. It's the NFL. Anything can happen. But I really think we're going to look back on this team after the year and think, why did they think this was the team to compete for the division again? Why did we think this was a team that was going to be an improvement upon a division winner? I think we're gonna see the Tampa Bay Buccaneers get slapped around a bit this year, and they're not going to be very fun to watch.